And salutations, Summoners. Welcome to episode number 6 of the Casual Tryhard Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm your bloke with the jokes, Anthony. Rico plays 1723. And by my side, along for the ride, is, of course, Kristos. How you doing, Kristos?
What's going on, buddy? We're having a good week.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today is going to be a special episode. We do have a third guest with us. I've mentioned him multiple times on the show. Kristos was nice enough to kind of let me lower his salary so I can get this guest onto the show. Our guest is going to be the deity of drawing, the tyrant of tempo, the king of control. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you, Logan. How's it going, Logan?
Oh, it's going fantastic. How about for you guys?
So far, not too bad, man. Not too bad. Had a crazy work day, but I'm glad to be on the show talking with my boys. We kind of want to give our first impressions of the new expansion and then talk a little bit kind of like the meta that we're seeing. And we also want to talk about control. Now, in episodes prior, Kristos and I have kind of made it very clear that we are not fans of control. We rather be proactive than reactive. So that's why I felt that it was important to have the best control player that I honestly know on the show to kind of give his opinions and his insights on control, especially in Legends of Runeterra, because now I feel like for the first time, there's actually a clear-cut traditional control deck. That's going to be Lysandra and Trundle. First off, Kristos, let's get your first impressions. How's laddering been for you?
It's been fine. There's not been like too many things. I'm playing TF Fizz a lot.
Oh, he went to the dark side, folks.
Yeah,
he went to the dark side.
Yeah, I'm just a dirty net decker. What can I say? So that deck is still like really good. Still tier 1. Still like easy collapse most of the other random things that I see. So can't complain too much. I've been on a little bit of I'm on like a 4-game win streak right now.
Very nice. I can say that I am in the absolute opposite of that spectrum. I'm the kid that's bringing these random decks in, trying to find something special, and it's not been working too great for me. I forget that when an expansion kind of comes out, you kind of want to have a deck that you really like to play so that you can learn the ins and outs of it, especially when there's other new decks coming out, you know? I tend to want to try everything, and then once I start losing with one thing, I want to try the other thing, and then I want to try the other thing, and I want to try the other thing, and then I end up like going 3-7 every night and just crying myself to sleep.
Pain.
Yeah, I do not suggest that to the audience out there. It's not a good time. But I think Go for it.
Build the light bulb, though, right? It's all about failing all those times, and then you'll discover the next TF is. Easy peasy.
There it is, folks. That is why we have him on our show. Logan, just wanted to first get a little bit about why do you like control, Logan? Because I've played with you, Logan, for the folks that are listening. I've mentioned it before, I believe, but all of us in the Casual Tryhard Network were part of a fairly successful Magic the Gathering team called Team Dead AF, and each one of us kind of had like our archetype that we like to play, and by far, like Logan was our best control mage. Just to kind of put it into terms that people may understand, I come from a soccer background. Like, Logan is like the Messi of control magic. Like, there are certain people that just are naturally good at it and don't need to really like work hard. Like Logan, you just give him a control deck, he'll play it for like 2-3 games, then all of a sudden like he knows what to counter, what the deck's weaknesses are, what its strengths, and it's just amazing to see. But he always likes to choose control. So Logan, why control?
Well, apparently if you choose control, you look very, very smart. That's what I was waiting for. I mean, all it took was me dusting up some chumps at a local game shop to get this out of Rico, so...
Yeah.
It's not hard to look smart. when you're casting ice shards against spider aggro or whatever. You describe control as reactive. I enjoy not just, the curve, counterspelly kind of control decks of Magic, where we met, at least, quite so much as the interactive part of control, where you get to, notice what your opponent's doing, think about what they can do, what they want to do, what their plan is, and then you try and poke holes in it. It's fun.
Would you say that playing that type of style needs a little more mental bandwidth to be an expert? Because, when I play my proactive style, I really don't care what my opponent's really doing. I just kind of want to do my thing, and that's go to face. Where you have to not only be an expert of your deck, but you also kind of need to be an expert of mine.
So sure, I think to be successful in either one, it's good to have a wider bit of knowledge than just, hey, I want to do this thing. And again, so it does make you maybe look smart, but is it really that hard to drag Ice Shard out and kill, 4 units in one go and not deal any damage to your tough Lysandra? Not really. Is it hard to see a spell in the stack that's going to kill you and go, I don't wish to negate that? No, it's not inherently, more difficult, takes more bandwidth. It does take longer, so maybe a little more patience. But I think metagame knowledge and, understanding plans and seeing those same plans in your opponent, I think that is equally applicable to aggro decks or, more assertive decks like the ones we were talking about, and for control deck. You're just much more obviously caring about your opponent's stuff. For you, a successful game is not having to care about what your opponent
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. So I understand that part, but I think for the tough games, the ones where you don't just drag out a removal spell every turn or a counter spell every turn or whatnot, I think for the tough games, I think it requires a lot of the same skills. I just enjoy solving the puzzle on the back foot, whereas you enjoy solving the puzzle quickly or just smashing it on the ground.
The face is the place.
The table and just. I was just saying that makes me happy to take the puzzle, so to speak, and just kind of flip it. That's my win.
See, the gods are not always kind, but they have a soft spot for plucky underdogs. I like playing the underdog in a game.
I'm impressed that she managed to weave that in.
Oh, the flavor text from the best Magic the Gathering card ever printed? Timely reinforcements?
The very same.
Since you coming from a Magic Gathering background, and I'm assuming that you've been playing Lysandra Trundle mostly?
Mostly being almost exclusively, yes.
Oh, okay.
I was, to give a maybe broader bit of my background, so I've played lots of other card games, online and in paper. I'm actually relatively new to LOR, but I've been sending myself to school learning the new control deck shortly before, and then when this expansion came out, trying my best to see what some cool builds were for it.
I think that's actually pretty interesting that, compared to, say, Magic, this is, control turned up to 10. If Magic is just, the default, this is so much more, spell dense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just less stuff ends up mattering less, but you have to still pay attention the same amount, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when I 2-for-1 my opponent, I pump a fist in Magic the Gathering, and this one is I've thrown away 4 cards this game to deal 10 damage, so.
So it is obviously it's different. Have you played certain matchups quite yet? Because I'm finding that this new meta, it's to be successful, you're either hyper aggressive or hyper controlly. So players like me who love to play Overwhelm are having a little bit of a tough time right now until we find the right list. Would you say that that's kind of true to what you've had to deal with on the ladder?
Yeah, I'd say probably so. So again, I think what I've been running has been decks to take advantage of dealing lots of small amounts of damage to things on the board, and sometimes it'll run into problems with more resilient units or ones where they have protection, and sometimes that's a problem. It's actually not as huge a problem for something like Fizz. Yeah, they're just so small. It's actually weird, huh? I do prey on some of the degens out there. But for some of the, bigger decks, especially some of the things that come out with their Dam Soldiers, you'd think you'd be so good against them, but someone is a 1/5 and you get...
It's crazy. I was talking about this last week.
We did mention that last week.
1/5.
Yep, we did mention that last week.
5?
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm sitting here looking at ice shards and avalanches and adding them up, and it just doesn't quite get there.
It doesn't quite get there.
And so yeah, some of the more resilient things can be actually really difficult for me to handle. Pack your vengeances, kids.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Kristos, talking about TF Fizz, I'm sure I know the answer, but are you having any trouble at all with that deck, man? Do we need to do something to that deck to...
No, TF Fizz is like on the decline, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think LeBlanc and Lissandra is like nuts.
So you're okay with LeBlanc now? You had your time to...
No, I still don't like her design.
The most flavorful name, LeBlanc.
Yeah, so, okay, Logan, I'll recap my soapbox from last week. LeBlanc in League of Legends is like the premier cunning witch magician.
You mean giant beatstick?
No, it's weird, right? Weird how she's not a beatstick or a ball of stats. She's the one doing all the spells, like behind the scenes dark politician type stuff. And not a 3-mana 5/2.
I was gonna say, that sounds very interesting. You know what isn't interesting?
3-mana 5/2 with quick attacks.
The least interactive card I can think of.
So I know, like, in Magic and WotC specifically have like talked about this in their BNRs, how they say win rate isn't everything, and meta share and whatever goes into like their bannings and stuff. But LeBlanc has like a huge meta share portion and an insane win rate out of like this entire new set that came out.
It is staggering.
It's a little rancid.
I think
like,
it was I think it was Freak who Freak, if you don't know, he's League of Legends caster, and he also casted the Cosmic Creation Tournament. He said he made out a tweet and was like, "Hey, all casters said that this card was going to be bad, and now this card is like the highest winning, that has the highest winning percentage of any of the new champions."
He's disgusting.
Yeah, it just shows to show that you can get it wrong. You can get it completely wrong.
I think
it's
everyone
crazy.
did just have this card wrong. Like, there were so many pro players in the reveal thread who were like, no, this card's kind of trash. People are getting paid to say it's okay. And this card's just obscene. And like every instance, this card is just nuts.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. And it's just, it's insane. What I wanted to move on to is kind of talking about some of our first impressions in terms of the decks that, or the champions that we thought were good, that weren't good, and champions that we thought were bad, but then turned out really, really great. So I'm glad to hear that, at least according to Logan, we were right about Azir. That him having that 5, his butt being 5 makes a huge difference in that deck.
Yeah, I'm glad like we called this last week. Like we brought attention to it for people because like that's exactly what it is. Azir is like really good, kind of Smurfs games, just a little bit, especially against like control decks. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, Logan, how hard is it to kill an Azir for you?
Depends on the deck. Just Azir is like a 7.
Okay.
They're the decks that protect him, and then it's something like a 12, and I die.
Okay, that sounds about right. That's been my experience because I can't kill it either.
I've been playing a lot of my boy Renekton.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I love him a lot. But the problem is, I guess the builds that I'm playing with him just aren't fast enough.
Do they feel clunky to you?
A little bit. Those Renekton decks are kind of feeling like those decks that you need to draw the correct half of your deck, and if you don't draw the correct half, like the deck just doesn't work. Because
I think that deck is missing like 3 cards.
Yes,
and
like,
I don't know what those cards are, but they're definitely missing.
I can't tell you how many times where like I draw the creature portion of my deck, but I still need like my challenger effects. I still need my vulnerable effects, and most of the time, like I need to be on the offensive and I need to attack, I can't really defend that well. And when opponents are dropping, for 1 mana, 2/1 Sand Soldier, that also brings the other Sand Soldier, and then they start doing that landmark that every time you attack with an ally, you create another Sand Soldier.
Oh, Emperor's Deus.
Exactly. By the time I get my Renekton down on turn 4,
they have just infinite blockers.
Forget about it. Like, yes, I hit you with that big overwhelm attack, but then when you come attack me, I'm getting smacked for 75. And I'm just like, what do I do? This is not how I like to play this game.
It's like, I think the Renekton deck needs a cheap card with a fight ability on it. Like a cheap creature, like a 1/3 or a 2/3. That's just cheap and cleans up a creature as soon as it comes in, like a Chupacabra.
Like a striking creature?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it just needs something to help clear the way, I think. Or just direct... See, but creature kill spells aren't the greatest thing in the world. So stapling it onto a creature is probably what it needs.
Right.
But there's just not enough of them.
And then...
Runeterra at the moment.
Yeah, part of what I like about how combat focused this is how much the creature sizing still matters, even when you're using things as removal spells, stuff like that. Challenger, not a mechanic you can see in a lot of other card games, but they've built their game around it, so it's great.
Right. And this is a perfect point, and I love that you just said that, Logan, because I'm going to go on a slight little rant, and then I kind of want to hear y'all's opinions about it. I like Legends of Runeterra because its ability to, I love the interaction, I love the combat focus, and I love the design of certain champions. And I got kind of this idea from Jeff Hoogland. He does some Legends of Runeterra stuff. I don't always agree with him outside of what he says about card games, but I think with this, he kind of hit it on the head. And that is, I like Legends of Runeterra for its ability to interact, and everything's about combat. But when you start creating champions that are kind of back row champions that are super hard to interact with, that's when I get a little salty. For example, I'm gonna name Kindred. I have played Kindred, I want to say 30 times, and I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever beaten that card once. Its ability to just sit there, right? And if I don't get the challenger effect, or if I don't get the vulnerable effect, its ability to just sit there and generate that type of value, to me is, I don't know, man, it's absurd. The first time you slain a creature, you mark their weakest, you mark the weakest enemy, and then you kill it. Are you kidding me? So when I play against that card, I'm trying to set up my defenses. Usually by then they play kind of like a hypo aggro shell with Shadow Isles, and they always have Kindred with Nasus, which is another card that I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. So they hit you hyper aggro, so you have to try to block, but you can't chump block, because the second that you chump block, you get marked, and then if you chump block, let's say you chump block 2, and I leave my boy Renekton in the back, those 2 creatures that I had died, my Renekton gets marked, and now my opponent is looking at a completely free field to come in and smack me with.
Yeah, you just have 3 for 1.
Exactly. And maybe it's a time where I have to be like, you know what, Rico, maybe you're just playing the wrong deck, but to generate that type of value for me is absolutely absurd. When you look at other champions that I think are designed a little bit better, like Ezreal or Draven, for them to get their value, they have to go ahead and do a Nexus Strike. There's an ability to kind of interact with it. And then you have things like Kindred. And then have you guys and this is going to really set me off. Have y'all played against the all-in Fiora deck?
Like a hyper aggro Fiora Shen deck or just a Fiora deck?
Just the Fiora deck. So it's basically
like protect the queen and kill ya.
Exactly.
Like with the rest of the deck there's like no other units.
Yeah, okay, so yes, Logan, you've played against this deck.
Yeah,
How
I can't possibly kill it. For
that exactly my point.
7.
Exactly my point. That's my issue. Like on turn 3, okay, so they're not gonna play anything on turn 1 and turn 2. They're gonna bank that spell mana. Then on turn 3, right? If I don't do anything on turn 3, I'm dead. If I don't try to vulnerable them, if I don't try to Culling Strike, and that's if they don't even have the protection spell, which 9 out of 10 times they do, the game is basically already over. So
yeah.
Is that okay? Is that fine?
Are you asking me if Boggles is okay? No.
Boggles is rancid in every format imaginable.
Huh.
That's because I can never
Easy
beat
answer.
it.
Yeah, I definitely can't ever beat it, and it's no different here. It makes me hate it all the more. But also, I talked about how much I like the interactivity, and that is the opposite.
Correct. And I think that's a huge point, right? Like, if I can't interact with it, how can I enjoy, how can I enjoy the game that's supposed to be like one of the most interactive games out there? Does that make sense?
No, that's exactly what it does. It just takes away the interactivity of the game, and that's what the game's based on. So you're not playing the game at that point.
You're just like playing like
clicking buttons.
Exactly. You're just like clicking buttons and be like, all right, we'll see if we can pull something off. But you're already hitting the X button so you can hit surrender.
Yeah. Who needs lettering? There is a versus AI button you could just do that with. Already.
And the problem is, like, every card game will have these people who don't actually want to play the card game. They want to win.
No,
so they do things like this.
Absolutely, and that's where I kind of wanted to talk to y'all about as well. We've played Magic for a long time. There's things in Legacy. I can think of already. Merit Lage on turn 1. Like, what? For folks that don't know, Merit Lage is a 2020 indestructible. Like, it's just a broken card that you can take out on turn 1. You have to do steps, don't get me wrong, but like it's completely absurd. So do you think it's like, hey, like we've gotten used to it in Magic and we've been like
no,
so
I hate it.
Okay, all right, that's good. Keep going down the line, because that's what I wanted to know. Like, is what's happening right now in Legend of Runeterra okay, and we just have to suck it up?
No.
Or like should there be changes happening in the background?
I don't know if there should be changes happening in the background. I think people just need to stop being the way that they are.
So,
like,
I understand that they aren't always the most pleasant decks to play against, but if you have a ostensibly competitive game, it's hard to blame people for wanting to win instead of playing the most interactive deck if the least interactive deck is good. So if you think it's like really bad and you don't want it to be part of the game, I guess you have to root for changes behind the scenes, right? Otherwise you're rooting against human behavior.
Yeah, I am in the camp of rooting against human behavior, but I also don't think this deck is good enough in like a competitive environment. It just beats me on ladder.
So you don't think it has any legs in any of the tournaments?
No, this deck will beat me in a round 1 of the PPTQ and put me into losers bracket, and then I'll be tilted for the rest of the day, and that's where I stand on it.
Sure, I'm fine with baby raging against early combo decks. And LOR, that's totally fine. I'll get behind you on that one.
It's the same thing in Pioneer where we had like the stupid inverter deck. It's the exact same.
I haven't played it.
In Eden, and someone had to be tempted by the apple.
My mid-range, and you're coming in here with your combo deck. Actually, get out.
Yeah, I've seen. So I've been playing Ledros as a finisher in some of the Lysandra kills, and then I heard some people are turning Ledros into Dreadway and dealing 20.
Yes!
And I've been very interested in this.
That's the move.
So
it sounds horrible. I mean,
that's great.
bad,
It's great.
though it also is kind of bad. It sounds like a terribly unfun experience is the important bit.
Unfun to play against, but not as. It's great to play as.
Sure. We all like making our 2020s, some more than most. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'd enjoy a reasonably interesting game finishing with a shing.
Yeah, you should have played around it, honestly.
Yeah, should have played around it by not letting you get that Ninth Mana Crystal.
So I bring this up because right now that's like the big thing over in Twitter, where we have a lot of like content creators and people with some, I guess, prestige in the community saying that these type of things are what's stopping like Legends of Runeterra being what it should be, which is being like the most interactive, card game that there is. I'm on the side that things need to be changed, but then again,
it
is what it is.
Because it limits design space really hard for the future, and I don't think Riot will want to do that.
I mean, that's fair. I'll just...
Yeah, like this game's just getting going, and they're already having to like consider their power creep after like 5 sets, and having to limit design space is probably not something that's on their mind. They're probably trying to like make tweaks to certain champions and then work on stuff in the future, not like degen strategies that take up like 0.1% of the meta.
Maybe I just find all of them where I'm at on the ladder, and I just have to deal with it and go on. It's just, oh man, it's so frustrating when I look up on the screen and I'm like, okay, here's their turn 5 Kindred, okay, and like the game is basically over.
Yeah, like Kindred for sure should probably be toned down, and it's funny to me that Kindred's release is this heinous because Kindred's release in League was also disgusting. So I'm just like watching history repeat itself with Aphelios. Kindred release Azir was beyond broken, and Azir now probably needs to have like 2 toughness cut off his card. Well, maybe 1. But yeah, I don't think like they'll do small things like that, but like overarching like protect the queen strategy is probably not going to get changed.
I think like they just have to figure out where they want the line to be drawn, right? The modern, a turn 4 format, and whatever they think is okay to be in their game, a minimum level of interactivity. And then if things get broken that they couldn't see, they can change things slightly. That's one of the advantages of a game like this, an online-only game.
So yeah, I will say Riot is really good about stuff like this. Like we can't see their API stats, but they are pretty heavily monitoring stuff like this. So if it becomes like an issue, they will take change in like a month's time.
It's all a question of scale, and we just have to see where Riot wants it to land and listen and see what the community thinks and where they want things to land. So far, it's seeming like there are a few noxious decks out there, so maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think there will be changes. Our sample size is way too small to draw any like company-wide conclusions, at least. Like I'll have my baby rage opinion, but that's not where the game's actually going to go.
Casual tryhard army, I want you to DM Riot right now and tell them to change all the cards. All right?
Yeah, tweet at Mark Merrill.
Listen to me right now. Because this is not what I want Runeterra to be. But I get it. I understand. This is definitely one of the difficulties of creating a card game. And, these are things that I've dealt with. We've all dealt with in other card games. So it should be very, very interesting to kind of see where they decide to kind of go with all of this. But as I said, I'm on the side of I want things to be more interactive than like, all right, turn 3, I'm pretty much dead.
Yeah. Sometimes you do just get waxed and you just have to go next. Like it happens in every game, right?
Yeah. So we'll
like sometimes you get glistener elves. It's unlucky. It happens.
Oh, if we're forwarding opinions about Salt, when I get waxed, I wish to click fewer times to re-enter the queue for my salty runbacks. If you're listening, Riot, you can just take the number of clicks I have to go through to salty runback into ranked again. Please, just one fewer.
Oh my!
I feel that. I feel that on a deep down level.
Yeah, for sure. I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, oh, okay, hurry up, go, and then wait.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Progress. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I just want to not lose. I want to not be feeling like a loser. Please, let me start again.
Oh my
Give
god.
me the serotonin win, please. For the love of God.
Exactly.
I'm one of those that like will not go to bed unless I win the last match. And I'm gonna tell you right now, these past 2 weeks, I have not been having a good amount of sleep.
All right, one more.
Yeah,
3 hours later.
Exactly. It's been a rough time. Like, it got to the point where I'm telling you, like, I would hit next, go on, and then like look at their champions, and if I saw Kindred, surrender. If I saw Vera, surrender. I'm not dealing with that. Next game.
I might recommend you consider playing Kindred.
That is another option. What's the famous saying? If you can't,
not a very hard to play deck.
no, it's
She kills things for you. It's great.
You don't even have to do the mindless drag a thing out and kill something.
No.
You have to do it half the time.
Like, you click one, she does the other. It's like easy clap.
One for me, one for you.
She's just so good. But I do love her backstory, or
Do you
their
know Kindred's
backstory.
lore?
Is it their backstory? Because
It is theirs. Yeah. Kindred is a they.
Oh, right, because like it's part wolf, part lamb, or something.
It's so Kindred is lamb and wolf together. Her lore is so good.
They're a wolf and a lamb.
Yeah, so they're spirits of death. So lamb comprehends emotion. She understands people feel it, but she can't feel it herself. And wolf only feels emotions, but he does not understand them.
Oh, that is so poetic. Oh my
So
God.
wolf like always chases and doesn't stop. Lamb is like insightful and tells wolf when to stop. And like one of her abilities in League is a circle that contains wolf, so he doesn't run too far away. Entire kit is like really now. It used to be disgustingly unbalanced, but now it's really good. Yeah.
I love that. I just wish she wouldn't send me on, or they wouldn't send me on my path to death so quickly all the time. But at least it's beautiful while it's happening.
Logan, do you like the art in LOR?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
I love, so again, too much clicking, but
Sure.
I enjoy the short films they give me every time someone levels up.
Oh, those animations are dirty.
Speaking of animations, Talia has like one of the longest ones, and I'm kind of glad I was right, and she's not very good, so I don't have to watch it.
I want to do something with her. I think one of my biggest regrets so far in trying Lysandra and Trundle is I haven't played enough Preservarium, and so I want to do that and Talia a little bit. Maybe copy some Thralls.
Listen, that was like the thing I was most excited for, is I was copying Thralls. Not very good. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, I haven't seen it at all, so I was hoping it was good.
I saw it. Freak was streaming a Talia deck, and I like copied it and made a couple changes, and then played it, and it was like it's really really cool. She just needs some like better things to copy, because the Thrall just isn't quite it. It's close, but you kind of get washed. Like,
you see,
early game.
you know what's better than an 8/8 overwhelm? Drawing a card.
Ooh, so here we
Just
go.
Copy the Preservarium. You could even draw an 8/8 overwhelm. It could be anything.
It could be anything.
You're absolutely right, and this is why drawing cards is the best thing to be doing.
Spoken like a true control player. Oh my.
Preservarium, aka Think Twice.
Okay, oh man.
I heard she's putting some dirt on Mr. Wafotapa, some other podcast, Rico.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's the Think Twice man.
Yeah. I mentioned that if your name is Wafutapa or Logan, those are the only two names you can use to play control. Otherwise, don't do it.
Sure. You
'Cause,
probably shouldn't do it any other time either. If you play bad all the time.
Shaheen.
Oh, Shaheen.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaheen doesn't win, but I want him to win all the time.
Yep.
Unlucky. Love you, Shaheen.
On the odd chance that you watch this.
I've never not rooted for Shaheen Sarani, and I have never not been disappointed.
Yeah. Oh my god. I guess the last thing we can maybe mention, though I think we covered it already.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like the meta, you're either super aggro or you're hyper control, and there really isn't much room for in between.
Yeah, there's no mid range right now.
And it makes me so sad.
Kind of unlucky, but it's just like aggro got so many good cards. It's bound to happen.
Well, there are fast decks that are still, I feel like, kind of mid-rangey, and some that, like the build around the Boggles deck that aren't exactly aggro, but that, can also kill pretty quickly. And so, yeah, I get that. It could definitely feel like an extreme metagame right now. I'm sure things will settle down. Also, early in a metagame, that's when people start talking about, the most aggressive decks or the ones that people are playing, because no one knows how to interact yet. No one knows what to interact with, and so you can't build a control deck that can interact with the right things.
It makes me sad that Renekton can't be the best that he can be.
I can talk about like a bunch of different Lysandra builds.
Well, what are just out of curiosity, what are the different ones?
So there are a lot of different ways to look at her. I say her. Trundle's there too. There's like the Turbo Thrall list where, you're actually playing your little monuments on turn 1, and the where you try and turbo out Watcher, even the ones where you turbo out a Watcher, and then you make copies of it at 0 cost to try and play around stun effects, stuff like that. And then there are the ones, or even in some of those, the Draklorn Inquisitor is another way to get your Thralls out a little quicker. So in the kind of combo-y version, you have stuff like Fading Memories, where you make ephemeral copy, or you get the Watcher in your hand off Lysandra leveling up, and then use Spectral Matron, make a copy of it, obliterate their deck. Those are the kind of combo kill ones, and then there are the ones that just turbo out the Thralls a little early with stuff like Draklorn Inquisitor, and then there's the harder control ones. I've been enjoying Commander Ledros, some of the, if you can call it fair, the fair Ledros only deals 9 or 10 damage instead of 20 when you play him. And have him just as a finisher in your hard control deck. So there are tons of different builds of a deck like that, and the Turbo Thrall decks can be even kind of more mid-rangey, and it does help in the heads-up matchup against other control decks to have your 8/8s out a couple 3 turns ahead of everyone else's.
That's not too bad.
Have you played other control decks?
Not often, only a couple of times, and I will say I started out with the harder kind of control deck with the Real Wrath, the 9-drop Wrath, whatever it is, and a bunch of Ledroses.
Yeah, yes, Ruination.
And a bunch of Ledroses in my deck. That did not work so well when all I have available to kill things is, deal 1, deal 2s, right. And they have their 8/8 overwhelms, and I'm still ticking down slowly. Please. Block with everything. Ice shard. And then the other one ticks down and I die. I actually love the persistent damage, marked damage, not going away in a cleanup step.
Really nice.
That's huge, right?
I enjoy that. Of course, I pick the deck that has a tough and a regenerating.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it's because I very much value damage being removed at the end of a turn or whatever. But I think it's a cool mechanic. It makes it so that individual units, cards can trade with bigger things more easily, even if it's over a longer time. It's really cool.
Well, y'all, as always, episode number 6 must come to an end. But before we go, let's make sure that you have ways to interact with us. So, Kristos, where can they find us?
So we are at on twitter.com at casual_pod, spelled normal. And then I myself am at Kristosi Vivo. And Rico, where can I find you?
You can find me over at Rico Plays 1723 on Twitter, or El Charua Rico. Then we also have our YouTube as well. You just need to type in Casual Try Hard Legends of Runeterra. Please make sure to come interact with us. According to the stats, we have some brand new listeners from Great Britain. So top of the morning to you. And we also have some listeners coming from South America as well, from Brazil and Uruguay. So please don't be afraid to interact with us. Come let us know what you want us to talk about, or anything that you want to mention on the show as well. But as always, it's sayonara from me, Anthony Rico Plays.
See you next time, summons.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I still only barely remember that.
What?
I remember making a joke about it afterwards.
Only
barely. He was in the clasp, right?
Yeah, I was in the clasp, yeah. But then, like, that's how you made us say goodbye to each other.
Oh, yes. Oh, I do remember.
Like, when we would
what
talk...
a good secret handshake.
Yeah.
You.
What did you do?
That's how you would know each member was...
Than you thinking people in Great Britain say top of the morning to you. So.
I had to mute my mic because I laughed at that.
I
didn't know what to say.
Another gold star for not taking a swipe during.
I didn't know what to say, so I was like, top of the morning to you.
Good day! Throw another shrimp on the barbie!